Hello, welcome everyone. I hope everyone has been enjoying this lovely fall weather. I know over here at Hillwood, we've definitely been enjoying it and taking advantage of being able to be outside and in the gardens. And today's workshop is going to be all about chrysanthemums. And it's one of my flowers that I never used to think about in terms of something that was really exciting or of interest. But since I've arrived at Hillwood, it ends up that there are so many different varieties of chrysanthemums, and they are absolutely beautiful, and they're so unique and different than things that I've ever seen before. I started getting a little bit interested in it and learning about the history of them at Hillwood. And then also just in terms of being in the horticulture department at Hillwood, this year alone, the horticulture staff planted 2,260 mums. Those are all outside on our property. And then in the propagation house, we have 770 mums that are growing. And I think this is a fantastic segue. We have a special guest today, Drew, and he's going to introduce himself, and he's going to tell you about mums at Hillwood. So without further ado.
Okay, hello everyone, good afternoon. My name is Drew Asbury and I'm the horticulturalist and volunteer manager here at Hillwood. And I've been asked to speak just for a couple moments. I know you're very excited to get the flower arranging, but I've been asked to speak a little bit about the specialty mums and how we do that here at Hillwood. And this is a tradition that's been going on for many years, over 60 years, since the days that Marjorie Merriweather Post roamed the property, and a tradition that we're carrying on today. And I refer to these as specialty mums. You could also describe this as a single stem disbudded mum, or most commonly these are called football mums. You say, well, what's a football mum? Well, the idea with the football mum is that these were very commonly used and a favorite to be used for corsages for the ladies, for the homecoming dance, which happens right around football season. So there's the background of football mums. So call them what you will, but they are a very different form than those mums that Amy mentioned, over 2,000 when we planted out in the gardens. Those I often call garden mums. Those are the ones you see out at the grocery store. Those are designed to have a ton of branching and a ton of little tiny flowers. The complete opposite is happening here, where we're growing a single stem with one flower, okay? So, and as Amy mentioned, we do have so many different varieties and types and color forms. This is a lovely, very common combination of the rust and gold together. You'll have those in your flower packs today. You'll see more of those. Here's just a nice, beautiful white one. You can see kind of the variation there and how those different petals form. Again, lots of variation. We have a class that's just called the daisy form. Isn't that just a nice, lovely, just basic pink daisy named Prom Queen? And then we also have a spoon style. And so this is one where we still did the same process. It's a single stem, but instead of having one large flower at the end, we decided to let 5 or 6 flowers. So to give Amy a little diversity in her forms and such. So this process, you know, it's about a 7-month-long process, and we start each year with baby little cuttings. We take about 2-inch cuttings. We put them directly into moist soil. Within about a month or so, they've struck roots, and then we will take around July 1st, we will take those rooted cuttings out of their little propagation packs, and we'll plant 1 each per pot. And then the real work begins. So during the months of July, August, and September, we grow that plant as a single stem, and if we weren't to do anything to it, we would have a little bushy plant that might end up having 15 to 20 flowers. So instead, we choose the strongest stem, and we remove any other stem that wants to pop out along this main stem. And what that does is that concentrates all the energy of this plant to this one little growing point at the top, okay? So that's what's happening around here in the summer. Lots of sunlight, lots of water, lots of fertilizer, okay? And then around September is when things start to get a little bit more fun and exciting, because these plants respond to changes in day length. And as we know, September, the day length is getting shorter and shorter and shorter. And these plants say, whoa, it's time to bloom. So they stop growing their green growth. And then around mid-September, we'll look out and we'll see tiny little flower buds forming at the very top of each flower, of each stem. That takes about a month to get to this point. And that's when Amy enters into the scene in September and October. Our greenhouse, we have, as Amy mentioned, about 800 of these so this year. She comes into the greenhouse with her scissors. She might cut down here, strip these bottom couple leaves, and then, this is what finds its way into our weekly arrangements around campus. And then the process starts all over. What we'll do is once that, by about Thanksgiving, we're kind of over chrysanthemums. We're ready for poinsettias. And so most of these will find the plastic pots we reuse, we sanitize and clean, we'll reuse them next year. That root ball goes into the compost pile. And then we'll save one plant of each cultivar, and that is what we will take baby little cuttings on next June to start the process over. So with that, the last thing I would like to say is that many of these are good garden performers, and you can grow them as garden plants in your garden, but often you will not get this form naturally. This is, it would become like a little bush in your garden if it were to perennialize. And, this is a lot of manipulation to get one huge football mound out of a plant. So with that, good luck today. I hope you enjoy your flower arranging.
Drew,
And,
before you scatter, I've got a handful of great questions for you. And
oh, hi.
First
Okay,
of all,
let's go.
Great appreciation from our audience for you joining us today.
Thank you, everyone.
Let's see. Joan pointed out that specialty mums are so rare that she's only familiar with one source here in the US, and that's King's Mums in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Perfect. Thank you for bringing that up. Yes, King's Mums is the old school source. That's who, when we want to venture out and get a few new cultivars, we go to King's Mums, but we also keep our own plants. So King's Mums is an amazing resource for both plants and knowledge and growing information.
That is great to know. Arlene and Dan asked what types of mums and what varieties are considered perennials here in the DC area.
That's a good question. So a lot of that just depends on, okay, do you have a sunny position in the garden? Do you have good drainage? Chrysanthemums for me, we have overwintered quite a few of these in the cutting garden. And it's the same even with the mums, the garden mums that you buy at the grocery store. Those are kind of hit or miss. And if you think about it, you're planting that very late in the season. It doesn't have really good time to get established before the winter comes. So often those are marketed and they've been so genetically engineered, they're not the most reliable proven performers and reliable for coming back year after year. So I think it's worth crossing your fingers a little bit, trial and error, finding the right spot in your garden. It's like a lot of other plants.
What size pot do you aim for as you're growing specialty mums, and do you try to move them to larger pots as they grow, and what sort of soil do we use?
Yeah, great question. So our style for Amy's cut crops, we use a 5-inch square pot. It can be any size pot. This is just what works well for us. But we actually use larger pots for some of our display plants, and we'll put 3 to 5 cuttings into each one pot. And then you can have one pot that has 5 individual stems in it. So really, we start with a tiny little 2-inch cutting, which goes into a tiny little cell pack. And then we bump that up into a larger pot. I don't think it's necessary to do more than a double pot there. That's a lot of work too. Again, because it's only a 6 or 7 month crop. Potting soil, it's the same potting soil we use for 99% of our plants here. It's a generic lightweight potting mix that's, any nice high quality potting mix that's available at any garden center would be fine. We don't mix anything special, and then we fertilize about once a week with just an all-purpose 20-20-20 fertilizer, lots of water, lots of sunshine, and lots of manipulation of that disc budding technique, which is removing all those little lateral shoots. That's the time-consuming component.
And Drew, I don't know if our guests here are more like me to be, I'm not so down with my fertilizer. Can you remind me what a 20-20-20 is?
All fertilizers have different ratios. And that's just something where, we actually mixed it up a little bit. I oversimplified there a little bit, but 20-20-20 is the concentration of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium in a fertilizer mix. And all those numbers vary a little bit. It's a science to it. And so we've probably taken a simplified approach here at Hillwood because we grow such a wide diversity of plants. We use that kind of as our standard. And another really common one is what's called a bloom booster, which is often, the numbers are 10, 30, 20. So we often will mix that in a little bit, that September time range when we're starting to see that little flower bud. So maybe we give the little extra nutrients that comes in a bloom booster to help make that flower even bigger. But the real trick is making sure that you do fertilize. You will not get a plant that looks like this with 1 or 2 fertilizers over the summer. This is 15 rounds of fertilizer over the summer.
Nice that, you know, keep you wide open in your social calendar,
Of
since
course.
you don't have to spend
What else do
time
you have to do,
fertilizing.
right, besides growing chrysanthemums?
Lillian asked whether we ever do anything to help preserve the cultivars that you have helped save, other than the types available from King's.
Yeah, you know, I wish we could say, hey, this chrysanthemum was original from Marjorie Post era. We don't have anything that we consider as like unique to Hillwood. And I think that's King's Mums role in this world, and also Longwood Gardens. They have a very extensive chrysanthemum display. And I think they're one of the leading growers and hybridizers and such too.
Fabulous. Thank you very much, Drew.
Okay, everyone. Well, here comes your presenter back. Time to start flower arranging. Okay, everyone, have a great weekend. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Drew.
You're welcome.
So as you can see, that was an amazing amount of information that Drew has his knowledge. So I'm very excited that he was able to spend some time to get you guys familiar with what's going on with mums at Hillwood. So before we get started, I just wanted to say that I'm going to do this a little bit differently today. I have my laptop instead of the camera, and I'm going to angle down the screen a little bit for when I'm actually doing the arranging so that you can have a better sense of what's going on. I'm going to stop in between the different stages of the arrangement creating, so that way if there are any questions of what we just did, you can ask. That would be the good time to ask at that point. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to prep our container, and today I have a ceramic container and I have chicken wire. So what I like to do is I always like to ball this up, and when I'm doing this, I want to make sure that I'm getting surface area on the bottom and also on the top. That way when the stem goes in, it's going to hit at 2 different points instead of just 1. Now, as you can see, I've made kind of this little bundle here that I'm now going to just shove into the container. There we go. So then you've got this, and I'm going to go in with some floral tape, and I'm just going to tape across the top in an X. So then you can see I have the tape on the container. And so then one of the most important things is you want to fill your container with water. So this is something that, because you're cutting your stems fresh, and especially with mums, is that they're going to drink a lot of water. So this is something that you want to check on every day. So you want to just kind of go in, you know, maybe scoot your finger into the back or something and see and make sure that there's enough water in your container. And then that way, you know, they will last a much longer time. Typically with mums, they will last for at least like up to a week to maybe 2 weeks. So you just want to make sure that you always have water in your container, and just make sure to check it every day. Okay, so does anyone have any questions about what I just did with my container? Are we good? Okay, so the next thing that I always like to say as just a little safety precaution is just to make sure that your snips are nice and sharp, but always to be mindful of any of your digits. So the first
Amy,
yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. We have a quick question about the water for your arrangements, whether you like to do any special additives, Floral Life, or the recipe that you've shared before with folks,
So
which is
so what we do here is that typically whenever we harvest, I always put a little bit of floral food into the bucket. So that way when it's first cut, it always has a little bit of nutrients to then absorb in. But when I'm actually making arrangements, I typically don't put anything into the water just because we don't like to have anything that could potentially spill in the mansion that might leave a little bit of a stain. That being said, though, I would, if you have any of those little floral packets, or if you want to make your own floral food and you put it into your arrangement, I think it's fine. I've done experiments with having floral food, not having floral food, and I don't necessarily notice a difference, but I think like sometimes the floral food does help, especially if you end up getting leaves in your container that it, they break down and get a little bit slimy. I think the floral food kind of helps with that a little bit because it does contain a little bit of bleach. Okay, so the
Fabulous.
first thing that I like to do
And is this a good time to tilt us down so we can see that vase?
Yeah, so I'm going to bring my greens over here for a second. So the first thing that I always do is I like to green up my container. And the reason that I do that first is because you are using chicken wire. And if you notice that you have holes that are relatively large in your container, so that you want to create a little bit more of a space to then hold the flowers in. And I also use the greens as a way to determine how big and how wide I want my arrangement to be. One of the things that I like to sort of think about is where it's going to go and also what kind of container it is. Today we have a container that's relatively sturdy so that you can make it a little bit taller than if you had like a really low, shallow container. But the rule of thumb is typically you always want your floral arrangement to only be 1.5 times the size of your container. So I'm going to tilt the screen down just a little bit so that you can see. There we go, the container. So again, if you notice with my greens, they're a little bit long and a little bit wily. So I'm going to cut those down. I'm going to cut everything at a nice sharp 45-degree angle. I'm going to take off any leaves that are going to be in the water because you don't want leaves or debris to necessarily be in the water. So then, again, you can always just take your stem, put it to the side to see how big it's going to be. And again, a nice sharp 45-degree angle. And I'm going to make this one-sided. So I'm going to start from the back and I'm going to work my way to the front. This is a Pittosporum that I am using as my green today. But again, any kind of greens that you have, especially I know if you don't necessarily want to go out, you can always like forage things. And what I like to do with my greens is kind of figure out what the shape and where it's going to go in terms of, if I want it to be really, dramatic, if I need it to be a little bit more compressed. This one I'm thinking, because we're going to be using these really beautiful mums and it's going to be nice and full, I am going to make this a little bit larger and a little bit taller. And also because I know that this container will be able to hold it. Let's see. It's a little big, not fitting in the camera all the way. And I'm going to green about, I would say 70% of the way. That way, if there is at the end any sort of bald spots or anything, that I can always come back in and like fill in with some greens at that point. But again, I'm doing this mostly so that I can have a really good base for my flowers to then rest and nestle into.
Amy, we've got a question from Diane Mooney, who's wondering whether you are working the magic you so often do and designing backwards. So we are looking at the front of the arrangement, or whether you are looking at the front.
No, so this is the good thing about having the camera right here too, is I can actually see it now. So this is the front. So you're actually looking at it from the front. I'm designing backwards. I don't recommend designing backwards unless you're up for a little challenge today, but I am doing this for the viewer perspective. Yes.
Terrific, thank you. And Amy, do you typically like to use one main type of greenery, or do you like to include a variety, and what might influence? I think I've seen arrangements you do that have some of both.
Yes. So for myself, whenever I'm doing floral arranging for the for Hillwood, I really like to go out and forage things in on property. So I use as much as I can, like in terms of, you know, I like to add like different colors, different texture. So having like branches and then different kinds of greens really makes it interesting. For a workshop scenario, and I think also for something that you want to, you know, make sure is going to last for the full like week to maybe 2 weeks, you want to choose a relatively hardier green. And so that's why I just went with the Pittosporum. But again, you know, whatever it is that you have, I think more greenery is always more exciting, but sometimes it can be also overwhelming. So specifically for this, I wanted to make it relatively uniform and make it a little bit easier in terms of people who are just coming to floral design for the first time. Okay, so now I have my container greened as much as I feel it needs to be for the time. This is the back side of it. So you can see that I really did green from all the way to the back to the front. So the next thing that I like to do is I like to go in with my flowers that are going to take up the most amount of real estate. So for that today, I have these spider mums. And as you can see, they're going to be relatively big and they're going to take up some space. So again, I'm going to work in odd numbers, which I think helps with my design process because I can then sort of triangulate off of the flowers. And so what I mean by that is that I can put in, you know, 3 in a triangular formation, and it just gives it a little bit of, I think, interest in terms of design. And then it also makes it a little bit easier in terms of you as the designer. And so I'm going to start with having some of the larger flowers in the front here. And again, I'm cutting at a nice sharp 45-degree angle. And I'm going to go in with all of the same flower first and then all of the same flower next. And that's just going to give me an idea in terms of blocking and the color. And then later on, I'll go in and then fill in a little bit more with the other flowers a little bit more randomly. And when I'm putting my flowers in, I'm not going to put them in sort of, what is that, perpendicular. I'm going to put everything in slightly at an angle. So that way the flowers are actually, their little faces are sort of tilting towards you. And again, one thing I like to do is you can look at your flower and kind of measure off of the container for your highest point. So then you can see I've got these nice 3 flowers and I've made a little bit of a triangle with the shape. And that way I know I'm going to then go in and start to fill in this area right here next. So does anyone have questions about what I've done with my base flowers? Sort of like, oops, sorry, the first flower that went in. Are we good with everything?
I've got one question here asking where the pittosporum comes from, how easy it is to pick up for those of us who might be used to buying our flowers at the grocery store. I'm putting myself in that category, not necessarily Aria who asked, but.
So pittosporum is actually something that's grown in Florida. So it's relatively easy to get. I've actually seen pittosporum at Whole Foods before in like their cut flower area. It's something that is grown all year round, something that we're able to get from the wholesaler all year round as well. I think it's relatively easy. It's just not something that's necessarily common that you would see in a grocery store, but I have seen it in a grocery store before, like I said. But it would be one of those things that you could go to any flower shop and ask them for pittosporum, and they'd be able to get that for you, no problem.
Excellent. And Joan Matthews just asked about your Lazy Susan,
Oh,
and I
yeah.
confirmed that you're using one. Do you want to share a little bit about why you like that?
So I love to arrange on a Lazy Susan because I am constantly, not necessarily this time around, but typically I'm having to like look at my arrangement. And if I'm doing an all-sided arrangement, which I've been doing for the visitor center, it just makes it easier than trying to, because the container that I used this week was relatively massive and it was heavy. So instead of trying to like squeegee it around on my own, you know, the whole name of the Lazy Susan is it's lazy, so that you can just then kind of spin it around and just get a better perspective. That's the only reason why I typically use it, and it just makes it a little bit easier to see your floral arrangement from all different angles relatively quickly. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I am going to go in with what we call Pom-Pom Mums. And these are the kind of mums that I think everyone is sort of used to seeing in the grocery store, or these were the things that I was always very familiar with originally whenever people talked about chrysanthemums. I've grown to actually appreciate them, and I like to use these not so much in the traditional sense of like spreading them out, but I like to use these as like one big clump. So I'm actually going to use this like I would a hydrangea. The one thing with these Pom-Pom Mums that I notice is they have a lot of leaves, and then a lot of times they have a lot of these little shoots that grow out. What I'll do is I will actually cut those off, and I will cut off most of the leaves on here as well. And I'll just leave the really nice blooms, and so that when they're clustered together, they'll make something a little bit more interesting, and I think visually I like the impact of having more of them together. So again, you're just going to want to kind of go through your mums just to look at them, make sure that there's nothing funky going on with them. And then again, I'm going to sort of bunch them together and see, and I'm going to stick with it about this, which is 3 stems of them. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them all together in this one area right here. So again, if like one is like a little bit too long or whatever, I might just snap that off. And I'm going to put this lower, or like in a little bit deeper than my spider mums. But I'm going to keep them all together. Okay, so then I have this nice cluster of mums in this area right here. And I think from looking at it, in the camera, I'm going to put one more right in this area to give it a little bit more depth and to make it seem a little bit more voluminous. I don't know, is that a word? Voluminous? No, voluminous. So. Okay, so as you can see, if I put that right there, how it gives it a little bit more oomph. I don't know what happened with this. Okay, so like that. Put you back in here. Okay, so as you can see now, I've got this nice sort of cluster of the Pom-Pom Mums. I have my Spider Mums as my anchor. So what I want to do next is go in with some of a darker color in a different mum variety. So I have these two different ones. You can see there's this one that's a little bit more delicate. And then there's this one that's a little bit more frilly. So because this one's a little bit more dense, I'm going to go in with this one next.
And Amy,
yes.
Go ahead. Sorry. No. I was going to ask you to walk and chew gum at the same time, and ask whether you sterilize your pruning shears in between each arrangement, and if there's a particular type that you like more than others.
I don't. I should, but I don't. Typically what I'll just do is, like, after I'm done with my pruning shears, I'll just rinse them off just with water and a paper towel, just to make sure that I'm not putting them back wet, just so that they don't rust. These are the button. I don't know, but this is the kind that I use. And it's a Japanese made clipper. I like it because it's kind of small, so it fits into my hand well. And it's, you know, has an easy, like, open and shut release right here. So I find that it's just a much more comfortable one for me, but it's still heavy duty enough that it will cut what it needs to cut. And I've unfortunately have cut myself with this, and they're very sharp. So they actually work quite well. Okay, so now I'm gonna take my red, these nice red ones, and I'm going to start putting them in. And from looking at the arrangement, you can see that there's like this cluster over here, and we have this sort of spread out with the Spider Mum. So I want to start making this seem like it has a little bit more volume to it. So that's why I'm going to go in with these darker ones.
And Amy, can you share what type of mums these darker ones are, both this denser one and the frilly one?
I can. I have notes right here. So this one is the Red Tornado, and it's just called Mum Disbud. So it just means it's a disbudded single stem mum, and the name of it is Red Tornado. And then the other one, this one here, is called Red Kiss. This one that we're using is a Spider Mum, and it's called Bronze Fuego. And then, no, this one is Bronze Elise. And then this one is Bronze Fuego. And then the Pom-Pom Mum is just called Bronze Win.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And that was in the document that should have been emailed with the link to this program this morning, but I will also resend that when we wrap up, along with a link to an evaluation where we ask for your feedback.
And so you can see with the red, how it now gives like a nice depth to the arrangement. And again, I'm gonna use the idea of the triangular pattern to base where these flowers are gonna go. So the one thing that I know a lot of people find frustrating, and I still find it frustrating at times too, is using chicken wire, because a lot of times you're trying to put your stem in and it won't go in, or it's like too crowded, or it's not holding it the right way. And the one thing, and maybe I say this because I'm relatively short, is that I like to get on my toes and sort of like look down into the arrangement when I can. And that way I can sort of see where the chicken wire is and where the openings are in the arrangement. And that way I know if I'm like, I can't get this into the arrangement, I can kind of peer down in there and be like, oh, I see what's going on, and then kind of adjust it from there. So just a little tip in terms of if you feel like you can't get your flowers into the arrangement that well. Okay, so then this is pretty much the shape and everything that's going to happen. And now I have these beautiful, they're very like frilly kind of mums. And so I'm going to use these at the end. If you were doing an arrangement with like small delicate flowers, at the end is when you would most likely go in with your smaller delicate flowers. I think of these, even though they're a little bit large, but they're kind of frilly and fancy, as more of a delicate flower, which is why I'm going to put them in last. I'm also going to put these in so that they're going to hover above slightly the other flowers. It looks a little bit wonky from this perspective, but I think it'll make a little bit more sense. And I just love these mums. They're really quite beautiful. I need to look at this. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to put in my last flower, which is just like that other one, but it's red in color. So if you notice any of your mums have these little stragglers hanging off of them, that's okay, because what these flowers are going to do is they're going to start to open up more, and it's going to become almost like a little beard on the mum. So you can pull them off if you want, but or you can just leave them on. Either way is fine. So I've just put this one here in between these mums down there. I'm going to put this gal over here. And then oopsie, my last one, I'm going to put her right up here. Okay, so I'm going to have a little look at this. And I'm gonna start to fill in some of the areas like back in here with some more of my greens. And the other thing I like to do is like look down and see if there are any bald spots towards the bottom. So I can see that there's a bald spot here, and you can see that there's one right there. So I'm going to fill in those little gaps. And I don't know, but you can, obviously you can see my hand back here, so it's a little bit sparse. So I'm gonna put something back in here. So I decided that I think I wanna put some more of the mums right back here, these Pom-Pom Mums. So I'm going to cut them off of that really thick stem, use these, sort of monkey those in a little bit. So I don't know if you can see, but that just kind of gives it a little bit more depth. And I'm then going to add in another flower back here. So I'm actually going to add in one of these guys here. Into the back. So it gives it a little bit more depth. I'm going to finish in with my Pittosporum for your greens that you have. And then just start to fill in areas that I feel have a little bit of bald spots.
Amy, if you don't mind walking and chewing gum again, we just got a great question from Nancy about how you might approach this differently if you wanted it to be an arrangement seen in the round, something on a dining room table, or some other location where folks would see it from all sides.
So if I were to do this and it was going to be an all-sided arrangement, I would start in the middle. I would do the exact same thing, but I would then focus the attention of, in terms of the shape and the width, I would start with ones that would come out to the side and to the top to mark where they're going to be. But again, I would start from the middle instead of from the back. And then you're just going to slightly keep rotating your arrangement to sort of fill in the greens that way. You would still go in again with your larger flowers that take up more real estate, and then go in with the smaller ones or more delicate ones towards the end. But excellent question. So I have looked at my arrangement and I'm feeling comfortable about it. So I'll show you. I don't know if you can see that or not, but I feel pretty good that this is what I want as my design. And as you can see, the back still has a lot of greens in it, so there aren't any bald spots in the back. Voila. So now I can answer any other questions you might have. or if you want to show what you've been working on
I
while
was going to
I've
say,
been doing this as well.
I see a couple of people who have been working diligently and who are still working. Nancy, it looks like you are pulling an arrangement into view. So I'm going to ask you to unmute, and I'm going to put your video up for Spotlight. All right, and Nancy, you are still muted. I can ask you to unmute again.
Voila.
There we
That's
go.
great, Mom. Nice. I like the leaves that you added into it.
Oh, thank you. I thought I was going to get arrested.
Oh, where'd you get them from?
I got them from the property here, but I didn't want someone to think I was stealing their leaves off their tree.
I can see Dad. Great, thank you.
Terrific. Betsy, it looks like you are almost ready for the spotlight. I just asked you to unmute. Oh, how gorgeous.
Can you see me?
Yeah. Oh, those are fantastic. So that's obviously the materials that you picked up today from Hillwood.
Yes. Yep.
Excellent.
Yep. Those are they. Can you? Let me see. I'm trying to get a better. There we go.
Oh, I love it. It looks great.
Good. Yeah. I'm thinking I'm gonna, now that I'm stepping back from it, I think I'm gonna add some more lower level.
Yeah, so that's definitely one thing that I always think is a really good idea is when you're finished is to kind of take a step back from it and kind of like crouch down a little bit so you can see also the lower level of what's going on, because essentially if you're thinking of it from the perspective that you might be sitting at a table and it's on a buffet or something like that, once you get down to that level, you might be like, oh, well, there's a great big bald spot right there.
Looks
So that's what I always like to
down
do.
there.
Yeah, so especially like the one that I just did also, I had to like crouch down a little bit low and I saw that there was that kind of big bald spot in it. So
I'm gonna probably turn a few of these to face me more.
Yeah, and that's the one thing I definitely think with these kinds of mums is they have such personality that it is a kind of nice thing to then have them, you know, make sure that they're being showcased well.
Right,
Fantastic.
then I'll play around with it for the next 2 weeks.
Right, excellent.
All right, it looks like Bree is sitting there with a beautiful arrangement.
Hi, yes.
Oh, that's gorgeous.
Fantastic.
Yeah. This is so fun.
I love the materials that you have for it too.
Yeah.
It's nice and very airy, and I think like it almost looks like protea leaves, but I can't quite tell. What is the green that you have in there, the greenery?
I will tell you, I got them from the grocery store and it just said greenery, so I don't
Right.
know. But they felt very like fall and spooky, so I like them.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Yeah, I know a lot of times like they're greens. That's what they are. Yeah, fantastic, excellent, thank you.
Let's see,
How you
Tacky.
change.
Oh, go ahead, Julia.
Sorry, I forget how you change that I can show you my screen.
That is something I do over here. Where are
Every time I forget how to do it.
I think you just have to or there's like a thing that says video next.
It looks like a video.
Video?
It has a line through it.
There I am. But how do
All right, so
I
you
change the screen?
You are up right
So
on the
you
screen.
can see my.
So if you look at the bottom, you should have a camera icon that has some circly arrows on them.
Shoot.
while Julia is working on that, I am gonna ask Khaki to come up on screen. And I promise we will come back to Julia. Khaki, that looks gorgeous.
Thank you.
Khaki.
Yeah.
Very nice. I like the color selection that you chose. And are those, do you have some marigolds in there?
I have French marigolds, you're right. And
Nice.
I have my prized dahlias. And
Excellent.
I have a mum that's gotten lost sort of in the middle. I don't know if you can see it right there, but.
It looks like you just hit the camera button. There we go.
Oh, I had a low battery. I was trying to save that. But yeah, and then I have some mums up at the top on the right-hand side. Yeah. But anyway, I'm having a lot of fun with my dahlias. And I had gotten some buds from Drew once for chrysanthemums, and they didn't winter over. So I've got to try harder next year.
Oh, they're a tricky thing to try and winter over. I will not lie about that.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, though, Amy. You gave me great ideas.
Great. Thanks, Khaki.
All right.
All right, Katie Norton, I'm gonna ask you to come on here. Perfect.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love the whole setting too. It looks perfect.
Yeah, and you know, I've been cleaning out during the pandemic, and I came upon this old plastic Lazy Susan that I think was from my mom, and I thought, oh, I should throw that out. And now I'm so glad I didn't, because now I know a purpose for it. So, and I
Excellent.
just wanted to thank you, because every Friday I have a Zoom, so I use these as my background, and everyone is so impressed.
Oh,
So,
good.
yeah, and also I don't know if Lynn Feinberg is on, but she's the one that got me into this whole thing, and I just love it. So thank you guys.
Oh, good. I'm so glad that you joined us. Thank you.
Yes, you're great. Yeah. Thank you.
Well, from one mention of a Lynn to another, I'm gonna pull up Lynn Batchelder, who looks like she's got something gorgeous on screen.
Oh, yes.
To get it in. So this is a ceramic vase I got at a pottery in New Hampshire.
Oh, I love
I
it.
just love it.
Yeah.
Again, this is another forever bloom because I couldn't get to Hillwood living in Massachusetts. But I tried to get the right colors, and there's some mum looking things in there, but this is kind of went random with the greenery and more traditional with the fall colored flowers.
No, I think that's fantastic. I love that you're using these permanent botanicals, as we call them at Hillwood. I think that there's, you know, the ones that they're making these days is just, it's you know, they look real. So, you know, if you were to not tell us that those were permanent botanicals, I would have been like, wow, those are some perfectly shaped mums that you have there.
I had a friend over this past week, and I had my rose one from last month, and she thought they were real just from 6 feet away.
Well, I think it's fantastic, and you don't need to worry about watering it, so
That's right.
Even better.
Yeah, you just have to dust it occasionally.
Right. Lovely.
Thank you.
Oh, I was all set to pull up Betsy Weaver, but it looks like her camera might be switched off right now. Oh, there you are.
Hi.
Let me
Hello.
pull up your video. And you said these are all mums that are coming from your garden?
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have any of the pretty spidery ones, so I just did this with what I could take out of my garden, including the greens.
No, that's even better.
Can you see them?
Nope.
Up. How about now?
Oh, that's fantastic. Those came out of your yard. That's very impressive.
They're a little tightly packed, but I didn't really have anything to spread them out with in terms of bigger flowers. So I don't know what to do when you have just
No,
that.
I actually like that they're in like those color blocks. I think that it works really nicely. And especially when you have like only like one size flower. I think what makes more of an impact is when you have like those nice big chunks of color blocks with the flowers. So I think it looks fantastic.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Lynn Batchelder, we just got a couple of questions about how great your permanent botanicals look and some questions about whether you might be able to share in the chat where your source is. And while you are working on that, I am going to ask Aria to unmute.
Oh, it looks wonderful.
It looks like you are still muted, my friend, but those are beautiful.
You want to say something?
Hello.
Hello.
Do you want to explain your design?
This is my flower design.
Oh, it is fantastic.
A little louder.
I really like the colors that
Oh, good.
used in the flower designs.
Excellent. Well, you look like you are going to become a floral designer at some point. That is absolutely fantastic.
Thank you.
I love that. All right, let me cancel the spotlight. And let's see, who else? Barbara Weiss looks like she's ready for her close up. So I just asked her to unmute.
But I can't seem to get, I haven't figured out how to do the picture.
There we go. You're pretty close.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
It was so fun to do. I never thought I could use all those flowers.
It's amazing where there's a will, you can really get a lot into one arrangement. I try and do that every week, really just like cram as much as I can into something. But for this, I was trying to be a little bit more reserved.
All right, let's see. I'm going to ask Lynn to pull up next.
Okay, I'm going to turn the camera on it, and I hope you can see it. Can you see that?
Starting to, but it's
maybe
still...
if I pick it up. Can you see that?
Oh yeah, that's fantastic.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Yeah, so, yeah, I did it. I didn't do one-sided. I did all-sided, so I can just around a little bit. And these are Hillwood flowers, and I think it came out nicely. And I love the class. And wanted to say hi to Katie and to Lynn and Kyle are on. So hi to you as well. And
it's fun.
I love the class. So thank you.
Oh, well, your arrangement looks fantastic. You are ready for a virtual dinner party.
All right, it looks like Julia may have figured out more with her camera. Let's try this again.
I think I have. You can see me, but I still can't figure out how to reverse the screen.
Try just flipping your screen around. We can go the old-fashioned simple way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I can't really, I wanted to show you, I've had some fronds.
Yeah, I saw that it looks like there's some kind of like.
They're fronds from an ornamental grass.
Oh yeah, that's wonderful.
I tried, I was gonna ask your opinion whether they should just be on the side or whether you might want to put some straight up and down in the arrangement. I wasn't sure that would work.
No. So from what I see is that you have them off to the side, which I like actually.
Yes.
I think that because the flowers are so big that if you put something that's really delicate sort of up at the top, it's going to get lost and you might not end up seeing it. But when it's off to the side, it has its own space to sort of shine, so to speak.
Okay, good.
So,
thank you.
Yeah, no, that's lovely. Thank you.
All right, up next, I hope that our friend whose name I'm pretty sure is pronounced Guiomar, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but that is pretty as a picture.
Wow, it's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
I can barely hear you. Can you try speaking up a little bit? I can hear that that you're trying. And I'm.
Better?
Yes, that's much better.
Okay, so I think I tried to do something to this side, but I think here I need to put something more because I feel a little bit
So my suggestion for you for that would be to cut down the pittosporum so that you would actually just shorten it up from your left side a little bit. And I think that'll sort of fill in that one little area right there.
Okay.
Or if you wanted, you could put in more of the Pom-Pom Mums, but otherwise, I think that if you did the pittosporum, just cut it down a little bit shorter. But otherwise, I think it looks quite lovely.
Okay, okay, it's a good idea. I'm gonna do that. Thank you. Thank you so much for your class. It's amazing.
Thank you for attending.
Bye.
All right, Gail, we have not yet spotlighted you. Let me see if I can ask
I love
you
the
to
container.
unmute.
Oh, that's pretty.
The background's kind of, okay.
Yeah, no, I think that especially with that container that you're using, the flower, the choice that you use with like the purple ends up looking really quite lovely with it.
Thank you. Yeah, I kind of went with what I could find, so I didn't have, and so I'm not sure I love the rusty, but I think they're not bad.
No, I think that it adds like a nice sort of depth to it, you know, having that contrasting color with it. So no, I think it's a good choice with it.
Thank you.
All right. Linda, have you been working on something over there, Linda Goldman? Let me try this again. I'm asking you to unmute. You are.
No, I haven't. I've been enjoying everybody else's. I apologize, but it's hard for me to do something as well as concentrate on what Amy is saying. So I apologize, but I've enjoyed everybody else's, and I thank you, as everybody does, you, Amy, for such a wonderful presentation, as always.
Oh, well, thank you, Linda.
Very informative.
Good. And again, it's one of those things that I think a lot of times it's, you can I like to just sort of listen to something at first and then go back and then create an arrangement. So, whatever you want to do, it's absolutely fantastic.
All right, and it looks like Myrna is ready here with some beauties.
She's talking to you. Hi. Talking to me. Hey, I'm social distancing with my daughter here.
Fantastic.
Having a fun time. I'm a novice, really new at this. So.
I think it's absolutely fantastic.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I have the height here, but should I have more there?
No, I mean, so I am also one for asymmetry. I don't like things to be perfectly symmetrical. I always like, typically in most of my arrangements that I'll do, especially for the visitor center, I always have like one sort of like really tall element off to one side of it, and then I leave the other side without the tall element. So that's just my own personal preference. Like, you're more than welcome to like put another tall element to the other side for balance, but I like it to be asymmetrical.
And I feel like I have a lot of cluster. Mine's very tight, but what do you think?
No, I don't. I mean, the only thing that you could think about for like the future is you could just make that a little bit shorter, and then you could bring the other flowers up, sort of pull out, so the other flowers sort of sit out from the clustered flowers, and that will help you with a little bit of depth. But I think like what it is, what I can see right now, I think it looks fantastic. So I wouldn't worry about it.
Oh, thank you. And then this one is one of my daughters. Let's see. My daughter. I have one daughter here. The other daughter couldn't come. But here we go. You see that one?
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah.
Right here. And then she has another one she's working on over there.
And again, I really like the one piece of the Pittosporum being up like that. I think it makes it a really interesting and a dynamic arrangement.
And then here's our other one, the third one.
Oh yeah, you guys did 3. That is very impressive in that amount of time too. That's fantastic. Wow.
Going on over there. Can you see it?
Yeah, it's a little dark, but kind of get the gist. Fantastic. Yeah, there it is. Beautiful. That looks beautiful.
So they're all 3 different.
Yeah, and that's the way it should be. They should never always be exactly the same.
I've loved in the past when we were able to gather together and we had a cap of about 20 folks max at floral workshops, and you could see that everybody got exactly the same supplies, and you'd walk out with 20 vastly different arrangements, and they all look stunning. That there are not really a lot of wrong ways to combine great materials. And
my daughter picked these up today.
Yeah.
So they're all the same flowers.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, thank you. It's been fun. I've enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Well, thank everyone for joining us today. If anybody would like to show off but has not yet been spotlighted, please give me a frantic wave because I want to make sure that we show them all off. All right, I'm not seeing frantic waves. So, thank you so much for joining us today. It has been an absolute pleasure. I love Arlene is right there channeling me with her question that just popped up in the chat about when our next class is. That will be an autumnal centerpiece workshop in November, and I am double checking the date right now. It is Friday, November 13th. That program is up on our website. You can purchase tickets to it now. You can purchase your flowers arrangements for that, as is our December workshop, which will be a holiday centerpiece. That program is one we're hoping will be quite popular, so we're going to run it twice, so you can choose an evening time slot or what is becoming our standard Floral Friday at lunchtime. So please sign up for more workshops, take a look at some of our other offerings at Hillwood, and those of you who are in the DC area, I really invite you to come and enjoy the gorgeous fall gardens. It is a splendid time to be at Hillwood and something that I am missing not being there every single day. So please get there, visit. We do require advanced reservations right now. That helps us make sure that we're keeping safe capacities, ensuring social distancing, all of that good stuff. So you really will have a wonderful, almost private experience when you go. And Amy, Nancy asked if you wanted to share a few quick details about the November arrangement before we head off.
Sure. So the November arrangement is supposed to be the idea of something that you could put onto your dining room table or a buffet. So it's going to be an all-sided arrangement. It's going to be relatively low because if you are lucky enough to be able to gather with any family or friends this Thanksgiving holiday season, that you want something that when you're sitting down, you can look across the table and actually see the person across from you. So again, it'll be a lower centerpiece, and it's gonna be an all-sided centerpiece, and it'll be, I would say most likely, because I'm gonna be selecting the flowers, it'll be like in the more warm sort of rust and gold and the colors that you would think of for a Thanksgiving Day feast.
Excellent. And we do know it's 2 weeks out before Thanksgiving, so the exact arrangement may not last that long, but it will be easy to find the same types of materials to recreate and polish and finish. We've thought about trying to get it a little bit earlier, but Thanksgiving weekend is when all 5 of the gorgeous holiday trees that Amy designs each year will be installed at Hillwood. And in December, we will also have a closer look. We're going to do a little tour about those trees where you can see all of the design elements that go into them. So sadly, Amy's Thanksgiving Day weekend is spoken for, but we are looking forward to celebrating early with you and hope that you can enjoy reliving the experience and ensuring that practice makes perfect for Thanksgiving. And Jennifer just asked what our theme for the trees is this year. Someone who is clearly a Hillwood regular. The trees are inspired by our new garden book by Executive Director Kate Markert called A Garden for All Seasons. So the 4 trees in the mansion will be seasonal, and the tree in the visitor center is related to the exhibition. Is that right, Amy?
Yeah. So it's based off of the Natural Beauties exhibition.
And we have gotten a question about whether you are currently seeking volunteers for floral help. Can I include a link to that in our
So
summary?
actually right now we are not having any indoor volunteers at Hillwood across campus. So that's just something in terms of the safety of our volunteers, the safety of our staff. We cannot have indoor volunteers at this time. We do hope to, once everything is back to normal, and hopefully that's going to be sooner than later, but we really don't have a timeline at this point just because we're all just kind of holding our breath and waiting to see what's going to happen. So I wouldn't, if it's one of those things that you're interested in, once things seem back to normal, I would definitely, you could contact us at that point, but right now I think it would probably get lost in the folder of no, we don't have volunteers right now. So,
especially without that help, our horticulture team regularly relies on the help of over 200 volunteers. So they are really feeling the pinch.
Yes,
and
definitely.
Just one of the many reasons that we hope to be able to gather in person soon and to be able to engage new folks with our volunteer corps. But I can include a link on our website of where you can keep an eye out for volunteer opportunities as they do start to come back online.
Yes.
And with that, I think it is now time to bid adieu. I just want to thank everyone again. This has been a fantastic way to start the weekend, and we are looking forward to seeing you again virtually and on campus soon, I hope.
Yes. Be safe, everyone. Wear a mask.
Thank you.
Thanks.